Hugo, the Lost Pyramid. After his amazing adventure deep in the primeval forest, Hugo thought he could finally get some peace and quiet. He had fought his way through dense jungle, crossed a rushing river, and found an ancient temple that no one had seen for many years. But Hugo had not yet realized that his first adventure was only the beginning. One evening, Hugo was sitting in his room, looking at the old golden compass he had found in the jungle. It hadn't made a sound, but after a few hours, the weather changed. A dark cloud appeared on the horizon. It was no ordinary cloud. It was a gigantic sandstorm. Hugo hurriedly pulled his red scarf up over his face and held tight to his backpack. The wind grew stronger and stronger, and soon he could barely see a thing. He tried to find shelter. Then he spotted something beneath the sand, a large stone. Hugo dug with his hands and quickly discovered that the stone was part of a huge, ancient wall. There must be something here. He kept digging until he found a large stone door. Strange symbols were carved into the door. Hugo placed his hand on the door. Suddenly, the symbols began to glow. With a deep rumble, the door opened. Behind it lay a dark passageway. Hugo took a deep breath. I've come this far. I might as well find out what's in there. He turned on his small flashlight and went inside. The passage led deeper and deeper. Underground, on the walls were ancient drawings of kings, animals, stars, and mysterious ships. Finally, the tunnel opened into a gigantic chamber. Hugo stopped and looked around. He was standing inside a massive pyramid. It was a pyramid that had apparently been hidden under the sand for hundreds of years. In the middle of the room stood a large stone slab. On it were three symbols: a sun, a moon, and a star. Hugo studied them closely. It must be a riddle. He looked around the room and spotted three small openings in the ceiling. One of them let in sunlight. Another showed the moon. The third was covered by a star-shaped stone. Hugo suddenly understood the solution. He turned the symbols so they aligned. The sun, the moon, the star. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire room began to vibrate. A hidden door opened. Behind the stone slab, Hugo smiled. I knew it. He walked into the secret passage. This time, the walls were covered with glowing blue crystals. They lit the way ahead of him. The further Hugo walked, the more impressive it became. Finally, he reached a large chamber. In the center stood a huge golden statue of an old king. In front of the statue stood a stone pedestal. Resting on it was a golden crown. Hugo took a cautious step forward. But then he noticed something. There were small symbols on the floor. He stopped. Wait. Hugo looked more closely. It was a trap. If he stepped in the wrong place, the whole room might close shut. Hugo took out his compass. The needle began to turn. It pointed toward a small stone slab at the other end of the room. Hugo began to move cautiously. One step, then another. He stopped several times to check the symbols. Finally, he reached the small stone slab. He pressed it. A deep sound reverberated through the pyramid. Suddenly, large stone doors began to close. Hugo ran. He ran as fast as he could through the corridor. Behind him, the doors closed one by one. He could see the light from the exit. Just a little further. Hugo threw himself forward and rolled out through the doorway. Seconds later, the massive stone entrance closed behind him. Hugo lay on the sand for a moment, trying to catch his breath. Then he started to laugh. He had done it. He had found the lost pyramid. But when Hugo looked at the golden compass again, he noticed something strange. The needle was moving. It no longer pointed toward the pyramid. It pointed north. Far off on the horizon, Hugo could see tall, snow-capped mountains. Hugo smiled. So, the adventure isn't over after all. He put on his backpack and started walking. The sun hung low over the desert, and the sky slowly turned orange and golden. Hugo now knew that the greatest treasure had not been the crown or all the gold he had seen inside the pyramid. The greatest treasure was the courage to keep going, even when the path was difficult. And far off in the mountains, Hugo's next adventure was already waiting. But what he did not yet know was that this time he would need help. For something mysterious was hiding among the snow capped peaks. A new adventure had begun.